All right, Colts Nation, here we are, looking into the eyes of the Los Angeles Rams with a chance to go 3-1. And what an important stretch this is for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, with a win over the Rams here, they have a chance to really put themselves in a spot where they, as a team, are controlling their own destiny. They would be 3-1, then have a game at home versus the Tennessee Titans before traveling to Jacksonville. Now, the divisional games are ultimately the most important thing in this 3-game stretch that we have coming on, but a win this week puts them in a position to really bust the division wide open early on in the season. I mean, you talk about the possibility of us beating the Rams, of us beating the Titans, and us beating the Jaguars. And while I don't want to get ahead of myself, all of those things are possible. None of those teams are particularly scary. We already dropped one to Jacksonville. Do we think they're going to sweep us? And if you win those games, you're talking about 5-1 to start a season that everyone thought we had no chance during. And also in that, being 3-1 within the division. Now, of course, you would have the rest of the season to play, but that would put you in a prime position to practically run away with the division. So it really starts this week for Indianapolis. 2-1 feels like a small accomplishment. It doesn't feel like a lot, but we're pretty close to being in a situation where this season's going way differently than we expected, and certainly different than everyone else around us, being the non-Colts fans who thought they knew something about the team, expected. And this is a great test against this Rams team for the Colts because of Sean McVay, because of Matt Stafford, and because of the experience that this Rams team has in big-time moments. Now, ultimately, it's just a regular season game, and the Rams aren't quite the team we saw go to the Super Bowl. But at the end of the day, you have a guy in Sean McVay who in many ways is one of the poster boys, one of the pioneers for some of these young offensive-minded head coaches. I mean, he was one of the first guys to get it done at a really high level that kind of fit that mold. And despite the fact that maybe they're not what they were, this is still a team that if you can stop them, your defense has to be playing okay. So we should have Anthony Richardson back. That'll be nice, despite the fact that last week I really thought Garner Minshew gave us some good work. Now, we know what Garner's limitations are physically. Anthony Richardson, we know it's limitless, right? So that's the difference between the two. But last week's game is a game that I'm not 100% sure, and this might sound ridiculous to some of you, but just in terms of the efficiency, I'm not sure we would have won that game with Anthony Richardson. I'm not saying we wouldn't have won that game. I'm just saying that each of them bring something different to the table. And maybe in some games it fares better than others, but obviously I'm excited to see Anthony Richardson play. And we're going to talk about this game a little bit, some of the things that I'm looking at specifically, some of the things that I view as keys to victory. And we'll get into all of that. But before we do, just got to introduce myself, get a couple things out of the way. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts cast. As always, if you're enjoying, shoot a like. If you're enjoying even more, subscribe. But again, most importantly, just enjoy. Quick story time for you before I get into the episode. I just want to say that this weekend, I will be away on vacation. That includes Sunday. I've said a million times, when it comes to these Indianapolis Colts, I'm a genius. But I've also said in many other aspects of my life, I am a complete idiot. So allow me to make an excuse for my idiocy. This is months and months in advance. There's a band I like that has a whole genre, like a community of bands in their genre. And they do a music festival every year on the West Coast. And for years and years and years, I really wanted to go. This is the first year they ended up on the East Coast, and I impulse bought the tickets like that. And now as it gets closer, I realize it's on a Sunday at 1 p.m. Now, ultimately, the band I really want to see isn't playing till later in the night, so I'm going to try to catch as much of the game as possible. But ultimately, I've put myself in a pickle here, meaning that this video right here is my last big one for the weekend. I think I'll release the parlay of the week a little bit closer to game time. I'll release that as a short, which means if you're looking for it, you'll find it. But I know that not everyone that's watching the shorts is watching the videos, so on and so forth. But if you liked the parlay of the week last week, I will 100% make sure to give you guys that. But as far as an episode goes, I don't think I'll have one out till Tuesday morning. Maybe Maybe Monday night. I doubt Monday night. I really do. But I'll leave it open that maybe I could get one out Monday by 6 p.m. If not, it'll be Tuesday morning. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. I apologize. And honestly, this has turned into such a serious thing for me, this channel, that I feel guilty about, actually going away. And I'm going to be at a concert with the Sunday ticket on my phone watching the Colts game. But besides the point, right? Let's talk about this game and let's start with the injuries. I mean, the Colts have been able to stay pretty damn healthy this year. And Quentin Nelson and DeForest Buckner are the two guys this week not practicing. Quentin Nelson with the toe that we saw him play with last week, and I think he had limited practices, did not practice his last week. He ended up showing up and playing on game day. Here he is not practicing again. I don't know if anything changed, but I do think and expect Quentin Nelson will be out there. The one thing for me is Buckner with that groin. Not sure if he's going to be out there or not. I know he hasn't practiced yet as I record this. We'll see by the end of Friday if something changes, but ultimately you'd like him to log at least a limited practice to think he might end up in that game. He's a very, very, very important piece to this defense. The Rams I think they're missing their starting offensive tackle, and that's really like the big one for them. So what I find interesting about this game specifically, it almost makes it easier to judge. And for those of you who listened to last week's episode, you're going to hear this part sounding very familiar because this is the second week in a row that we've had the Bengals as a common opponent. Remember, last week we versed the Ravens. The Ravens the week before they versed us versed the Bengals. And now the Rams last week on Monday Night Football also versed the Bengals. And I bring this up specifically because I look at the Bengals defensive line as one that can play, but cannot play quite as good as ours. So when I look at what a Bengals defensive line is able to accomplish against the team that we're versing, I just really marvel at the possibilities of what our defensive line can do. And again, the Bengals with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, those guys can make noise. Last week, they got it done against the Rams on the defensive line. I think they had 6 sacks. Kyron Williams, who obviously not a spectacular back, but for the fantasy folk, he gets the job done. He averaged less than 4 yards per carry. So I'm once again looking at what the Bengals were able to accomplish in 6 sacks and really doing a good job against the run and saying, damn, the Colts have a pretty good shot to do something very similar. Now, if Buckner's not out there, even though I like the depth, it's easy to discount maybe what he brings to the table. So I would like to see Buckner play. If not, I'd like to see how the defensive line plays without him there. But I'm looking at the Rams' offensive line from Monday Night Football and saying if they trot out and play like that, they're going to be in a lot of trouble versus the Colts because what we notice, the defense of the Indianapolis Colts is in a really, really good spot right now. I mean, they're in midseason form. The offense, on the other hand, not so much. We see some inefficiencies. We see some hiccups in the offense. So guess what? We still find a way to drop over 20 points every single week when the offense isn't performing at its best. So I think it's pretty simple on this front. I think if the Colts are able to get things going on the defensive line and take advantage of really a weakened Rams offense in many ways and an offensive line that didn't perform well against the Cincinnati Bengals, I think the Colts are going to be in a good position to hold the Rams to 20 or less, which I think at home is going to be enough for the Colts to win the game. I mean, it feels weird predicting the Colts to go 3-1, but it's kind of where I'm at. So if I'm to get the specific keys to victory to you before I go drive to Philadelphia right now, the Colts need to establish the run. This is obvious, but you have a guy in Aaron Donald on that defensive line. So it's going to be easier said than done. You have to establish the run. You have to stop the run. And on that note, you have to control Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald, I mean, I listened to Shane Steichen talk about him. Not that I didn't know who Aaron Donald was, but just to hear the respect that Shane Steichen has for Aaron Donald. The one thing about Aaron Donald is he's going to line up on really all parts of the line. Now, he's not going to be an edge rusher, but when you want to talk about inside the tackles, he could be anywhere, and the Colts have to do a really good job of making sure they know where he is at all times. Now, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I have Aaron Donald, an interior offensive line or defensive lineman rather, I'm saying, okay, you got Ryan Kelly at center, you got Quentin Nelson at one guard, and you got Will Fries at the other guard. Which one of those three do you think they're going to try to exploit with Aaron Donald? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it because we all know the answer. Now, Will Fries ultimately, was it last week or the week before, had like a 90-point-something score in PFF. Now, we don't know which Will Fries is going to show up, but we're going to see how he is able to handle Aaron Donald, because I have no doubt in my mind that the Rams are going to try to take advantage of him. If it's between him and Quentin Nelson, they're going to try to take advantage of him. I mean, maybe they see the toe injury on Quentin Nelson and want to hammer that, but if I were them, I'd be looking at some of the ways that Jacksonville was able to get pressure in between Braden Smith and Will Fries and try to get it done like that. And it starts with Aaron Donald taking up some space over there, so really controlling him just to the degree where you're not watching the game and saying, wow, Aaron Donald is taking over this entire game. I think that's all they need to do offensively. Other than that, I'm not super scared of the Rams defense. And as I said before, not only did we have to establish the run, we had to stop the run, because if we stop the run, it's going to stop the Rams from their receivers overachieving, which is what they've done this year. This kid Puka Nacua, make no mistake, you don't go out there and have 35 targets and all the receptions and yardage he does in the first 2 weeks without being able to play. I understand that. Tutu Atwell is a guy that has been in the Rams system for quite some time. I've really liked him for quite a bit of time. He's playing well this year. But ultimately, they are overachieving just a little bit. And again, our secondary, we'll see how they do. Juju Brent's curious to see who he's matching up with. Puka Nacua is a guy that's been lining up in the slot quite a bit, but he's a big guy, and it would be nice to see what Juju Brents could do against him. Nick Cross maybe comes down on the guy out of the slot. I don't know fully. Obviously, Kenny Moore's in the position as well, but different plays call for different things. Sure, Kenny Moore is our slot corner, but you may catch us in a formation here or there where that's not the case. So we're going to see how that goes. But I think if the Colts are able to establish the run, stop the run, just make it where Aaron Donald isn't taking over the entire damn game, I think that's a recipe for success, and I think that's a recipe for a win. Ultimately, I think if the Rams aren't able to run the ball, they're going to have a tough time slowing down the Colts pass rush, which ultimately is going to put these receivers of the Rams in a tough spot because they're not going to have time to get open down the field. I don't mind them moving the chains a little bit, of course, because that's what happens in the NFL. That's what happens with a guy like Sean McVay. But we want to make sure that this Rams offense has to work for everything that they're getting. If they have to work for everything they're getting, I don't think they're going to score over 20 points. And if they don't score over 20 points, I don't think they're going to beat the Indianapolis Colts right now, because I think Shane Steichen is firing on all cylinders. And again, no one has been incredibly excited about the way the offense looked. We are excited about what Richardson has been bringing to the table, but no one's looking at the offense right now and saying this is the best version of this offense. Right now, this is the worst Anthony Richardson is ever going to be. And that's what we're looking at right now. And quite frankly, we've dropped 20 or more in every single game. So I'm very, very confident. And I know, spare me the first game, I know there's a defensive touchdown. I understand all of this. But Jags defense been looking pretty good this year. In hindsight, doesn't look as embarrassing as it was. That Chiefs offense only put up, I think, 14 against them as well. But regardless, no matter how you look at this, that's what I'm looking at going into this game. I don't want to keep talking in circles. I am predicting a Colts win this week. And I really try to not be biased here. But for me, with the way the Colts defense is playing, the Rams offense to me just doesn't look like a spot unless the Colts defense just underachieves greatly in this game. The Rams offense doesn't look like it's in a spot to put up a real good day on this Colts defense. And I trust the Colts offense to put up enough points, even if it's through field position that the defense gives them. I just trust Steichen's offense to get it done against a team that's not going to score 20 points. So we'd be looking at a 3-1 Indianapolis Colts going into 2 divisional games. I mean, fucking hell. Can you ask for anything else than that out of this season? So that right there was the Colts versus Rams preview. Curious to hear what you guys think. What are you watching for? Did I miss something? Because I usually do. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. But yeah. With that, I'm gone for the weekend. Maybe I'll put up a poll, a post. I'll try to be interactive some way, but again, it's a vacation, right? I apologize. But if not, I'll see you Tuesday morning. So my name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts Cast. Looking forward to football Sunday. Enjoy your betting. Enjoy your parlays. Enjoy your fantasy football. Good luck to you in all of your endeavors this week. Go Colts.